Well, we have our friend David McCormick up here. He's running for the Senate, the Republican nomination in Pennsylvania, up against Bob Casey, who's basically a mannequin. He never really talks. I don't even know what his voice sounds like. Dave McCormick, you can find out more about his campaign at Dave McCormick, McCormickPA.com. It's on all our social platforms. Dave, welcome to the program. All this going on in Philadelphia. It's 2 nights now. Has anybody heard from
Mark,
Senator Bob Casey? Have you?
Not a word. Not a word. Thank you for having me. It's always so great to be on your show.
My honor.
This is a disaster. I mean, I just by coincidence was in Philadelphia the day after the first night of looting. And it's just, it was incredible. I stood in front of the Apple store, and you see more than 100 looters, running down the streets, and it's the direct result of terrible leadership. This Soros-backed DA, Larry Krasner, but Bob Casey has been AWOL. And this is also the result, as you know, of a progressive liberal ideology that wants to defund the police, does not support law and order, puts dangerous felons on the street, and hasn't done anything to stop the fentanyl crisis that's killing people in Pennsylvania and around the country. And so this is all coming to a head in our urban centers. Philadelphia is just disgraceful to see.
Honestly, God, Bob Casey is always AWOL. He's AWOL on everything. He's not just not a leader. He's really not a senator. And I'll be honest with you, I can't tell which senator is more dim-witted, Fetterman or Bob Casey. Now, Bob Casey supported Fetterman, even knowing he wasn't up to the job. Bob Casey is down the line, radical Democrat. He poses as a moderate. His father was a moderate. Bob Casey, the son, is no moderate. But in a matter like this, when communities in Philadelphia, in our cities, all throughout Pennsylvania, are united in their objection to this kind of lawlessness and brutality, and these retail stores now leaving these communities, Bob Casey's afraid to speak. So I assume you've challenged him or something, or saying, Bob, we can't hear you?
Yeah, I have. I've made that clear publicly. He's been completely silent. But listen, this shouldn't be a surprise. So Bob Casey's been in statewide elected office for 30 years. He's been 17 years in the United States Senate. You literally could not put your finger on a single thing that he's done from what is arguably one of the most significant states in the country, the birthplace of our country, and a battleground state. But here's the thing, Mark, that is just shocking. Under Joe Biden, Bob Casey has voted 98% with Joe Biden. He's a rubber stamp that has over and over again supported the policies that are taking our country in a terrible direction, whether it's the border, inflation, law and order. And so this is emblematic of someone who's not actively fighting for the interests of Pennsylvania, but has essentially adapted the terrible policies of Joe Biden. And that's why I believe that when presented with an opportunity to vote for someone who's going to fight for them, who's an independent leader, who's going to fight for the people of Pennsylvania, and who's going to act as a leader, I think that there's a real chance that Pennsylvanians will make the different choice, and I'm going to work hard to earn their vote.
Well, the Democrat ruling class in Pennsylvania is frightened of you. The governor put out an edict which is intended to harm your election chances, automatic voter registration. He did it without any legislation from the legislature in Pennsylvania. That's directly aimed at you, I believe. In the case of Bob Casey, what he does is he overwhelms the airwaves. It's very expensive in Pennsylvania. You have all these big cities, but you have these sort of cluster areas of big cities with suburbs, and so the media market is very expensive. And he expects to overwhelm you with all kinds of donations from Schumer, the hard left Democrat billionaires, and all the rest of it. And this is why I've endorsed you, because I think you're good on the issues, you're a good debater, and you have at least some finances, significantly so, to take on what's going to be this air attack and this ground attack against you, no?
Yeah. Well, listen, this is not for the faint of heart. That's for sure. But here's the way I look at it. I've been blessed with everything this great country has to offer. I'm a Pennsylvania kid, born and raised, had a chance to go to West Point, serve our great country in the 82nd Airborne Division, and then run a successful business in Pittsburgh that created hundreds of jobs. And, if people that are blessed don't fight for America, the great American dream that you and I have lived and the great America we've been part of won't be available for our kids. And so as nasty as it's going to be, and it's going to be nasty, it's already turning nasty because of what you said. I think the Democrats think that there's a real threat. It's small in comparison to what those before us have sacrificed. And so my wife and I are honored to be able to do it. And we're going to fight every step of the way to win this seat. And I think what's happening is that the Republican Party in Pennsylvania around the country sees this as a race we can win. And the Senate could very well depend on what happens in Pennsylvania, Mark. And if you think about protecting our country and taking it the right direction, the difference between having a majority led by Chuck Schumer and a majority led by strong conservatives is a big difference. And so the stakes are high, but anything worth doing is going to have some risk and some pain associated with it, and I'm proud to have a chance to do it.
I think you have a real shot at this, and I hope the Republicans in Pennsylvania unite behind your campaign, do so quickly so you don't have to waste a lot of money in the primary. There aren't many candidates that can run a statewide race and put up with this Democrat machine. You're one of them who can. You've been very loyal to Trump. You're very loyal to other Republicans who've been very interested in your candidacy and in their own candidacy. I just think you're a kind of guy that can bring the different disparate parts of the Republican Party together, including conservatives and primarily conservatives, back your candidacy because they know how bad Bob Casey is. Bob Casey, when he first ran for office, he was one of the biggest pro-lifers in America. No, he's one of the biggest anti-pro-lifers in America. So regardless of what people think about this issue, this is a moral question. How do you flip-flop on a moral question? His father, Casey versus Planned Parenthood, that is a seminal decision. His father would be appalled at his son, but he's a chameleon, isn't he?
Yeah, that's a perfect example, but it's not the only one. The Bob Casey, I'm saying this in quotation, the perceived moderate. You look at the voting record and you look what he has become. He's become a very left-leaning senator, and it's no surprise why that's true. It's because that's where the Democratic Party has gone, and so he has been a follower, not a leader, and he votes in a way now that is out of step with the majority of Pennsylvanians.
We're here with Dave McCormick, who's taken on the big task. It's very difficult to beat an incumbent Democrat, let alone in Pennsylvania, one with the name of Casey. He's been riding on his father's coattails for decades, who's going to be supported by big union, big business, big illegal immigration, and all the rest of it. They're going to throw everything they have into this race because they can't afford to lose Pennsylvania. And if we can take Pennsylvania with Dave McCormick, that will be pretty good indication of a blowout night for the Republicans. And Dave McCormick, a couple of questions for you. Casey's been in the Senate long enough. He's part of the majority party there. What exactly is his position on illegal immigration and this invasion that's overwhelming our communities and in our cities, including in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, it's you made the point earlier about the transformation of Bob Casey. It's a perfect example of his flip-flopping. In 2006, he opposed amnesty and supported a border fence. And during the Biden administration, he's gone in completely the opposite way. So he has been a explicit and strong supporter of the Build Back Better Act, which, as you know, called for large mass legalization. He's voted twice against Kate's Law, which set a mandatory imprisonment minimum for deported felons who illegally entered the United States. He has been lockstep with Joe Biden, rubber stamping every one of Joe Biden's policies as it relates to the border. And so this border crisis, which is affecting Pennsylvanians, and everywhere I go, this is a top issue, Mark. Everywhere I go in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Bob Casey owns it. Bob Casey owns it just like Joe Biden owns it, and it's been an absolute disaster. And when I've criticized him and others have criticized him, there's silence. And I think the reason there's silence is it's pretty hard to defend.
And then this thing about Bidenomics. With inflation through the roof, people can't afford homes. Many people are having trouble making ends meet. They're running up their credit cards to record level of debt. They're in this spiral. The price of food, the price of basics like gasoline. People can't afford cars because of their phony energy policies. On and on and on. And Biden says this is working, and all the Democrats say this is working. Don't you think they really ought to run on Bidenomics and tell everybody who is suffering that it's really working? Wouldn't that give you an opportunity?
It's a huge opportunity because I just did a poll among Pennsylvanians, and 50% of them said the biggest issue for them is inflation and the cost of living. It's a disaster, Mark. 40-year high in inflation. The Biden administration says, oh, inflation's improving. It's only growing by 3%. Well, it's up by 20% since Biden took office. Fuel prices are up 50%. Gas is up 50%. Diesel's up 60%. As you said, rent, food. And this is a killer. It's insidious because it hurts all of us, but it's crushing for working families who live paycheck to paycheck, which, by the way, are 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and it kills elders on a fixed income. And this is a direct connection, consequence of a couple things. The unbelievable spending that's taken place under Biden, these huge legislative packages, trillions of dollars. Now, you and I both know that Republicans have not been great on spending over the last decade either, but what's happened under Joe Biden has been a hockey stick. In comparison, it's absolutely out of control. The second thing that's been a big driver of inflation is the attack on our domestic energy sector, because that's a direct driver of the fuel prices, which is a big part of where inflation is showing up. And I was with a bunch of farmers today in Lancaster County. Number one problem for them is fuel prices. So the inflation we see is a direct consequence of Biden's policies. I can't for the life of me understand why he's leading with that. It's like leading with your chin. And I'm going to, every time I talk to anybody in Pennsylvania, I'm going to talk about the deeply flawed policies of Joe Biden and Bob Casey that are crushing working families and crushing Pennsylvanians. And it's a disaster. There's no doubt about it.
This attack on energy production and energy independence is not only an attack on the average Pennsylvanian who's having difficulty making ends meet. It's an attack on the fuel industry. People don't realize a significant fuel industry in Pennsylvania. So it's an attack on both ends of Pennsylvania, isn't it?
It's complete idiocy. Well, here's the thing. This is the absolute hypocrisy of it. Pennsylvania, just to put in perspective, I think you know this, but if Pennsylvania were a country, it'd be the 5th largest natural gas reserves in the world. It's enormous. We just have to be able to unlock it and get it out of the ground into pipelines to the northeast and southeast, and a port opportunity, a port where we can actually export to the world. But here's what happened. President Trump had a set of policies that really created energy dominance. We were well on the way to being the most dominant energy player in the world. Under Joe Biden, 3 bad things have happened. Number one, we become a net energy importer, not an exporter, due to the policies and the regulatory blanket that's been placed on our industry. Second, it's killed our economy. I mean, Pennsylvania could develop its fracking industry, its natural gas industry. It'd be a huge driver of jobs. It's an amazing opportunity for us if we can just unlock it. Third thing, and here's the irony, it's actually been bad for the environment, because under Joe Biden's policies, we've become a net energy importer. And guess what? We're buying crude from Nigeria and Saudi Arabia, which is far less clean for the environment than that pure, wonderful natural gas that comes out of Pennsylvania. And so this is one of these things where the left has hijacked this issue and done stupid things under this notion of virtue and the environment, which has been bad across all 3 fronts. It's been really stupid.
I mean, ladies and gentlemen, you can hear how eloquent and knowledgeable Dave McCormick is. And he's running against really a Democrat leftist who pretends to be a mainstream center-left union-supporting Democrat when he's attacking every household in the state of Pennsylvania, union, non-union, white-collar, blue-collar. Says nothing about what's going on with the Democrats in these cities who lead these cities and are destroying these cities, like my home city of Philadelphia. The guy just is lazy. He votes as he's told to vote. And as I said, it is a close call over who's more dim-witted, Fetterman or Casey. Now, if people want to help you, Dave McCormick, and we're certainly going to have you back during the course of the campaign, where do they go?
DaveMcCormickPA.com. I'm going to be running hard for the next 13 months to replace Bob Casey. And as I said, Mark, I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk to your listeners, and always appreciate your friendship.
Likewise, you're a good man. I think you really have a shot at this if the party and the people get behind you and you get your message out. And I know you're a tireless campaigner. So Bob Casey's in for the fight of his political life, and that's a good thing. It's DaveMcCormickPA.com on all my social sites if you want to check out his campaign. Thank you, my friend. Take care of yourself.
Hey, you too, Mark. Thanks again. Look forward to reading your new book. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, buddy. God bless.